What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we got Benji from Not a Toy. Thank you so much for your time today, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here. This new self-titled EP, which was released a couple months back, absolutely killer. What I was curious is, being that this is an EP, could this maybe serve as like a clear representation on like the direction Not a Toy is going into from here on out?
Absolutely not, actually. I feel like we have a lot of different sounds coming together on this EP, and I feel like we are still kind of figuring out what Not a Toy really sounds like. And with the music that we've been writing recently for our next body of music, we still are yet to kind of pick that direction. So I don't know if we can really know what to expect from that EP, if that makes sense.
Well, I thought that even the EP in itself had a lot of different stuff working for it. Like a track like Demise was very different from like Quitting, which was different from like Sideways or Antidote. So it seems like almost like experimentation is almost what makes Not a Toy, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good way to put it. So, I mean, I guess people can expect that there'd be a lot of new and maybe some similar sounds. I feel like we approach each song differently. So we kind of never know what sound is going to come out of it.
Does it start off with like a preconceived idea, or does it or is there kind of like a lot of trial and error involved?
There's a lot of trial and error involved, but that also happens with like the preconceived ideas. You know, there's sometimes where we come in and we have a vibe or a certain like, oh, we should start a song a little more aggressively with like this kind of beat and then throw some guitar on it. And, you know, those also have their own trial and errors of ideas. But I feel like every time we approach a song, like, I know this is probably a shitty answer, but I feel like we do it differently almost every time.
No, that's not a shitty answer at all. And that has to keep it interesting for you guys as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. Keeps us on our toes.
Yeah. Now, being a drummer, like, have you always needed the music before you laid down the drum pattern and the drum beat and everything like that? Or have you ever had a whole drum pattern written down and maybe like the rest of the band would write over that?
Yeah, good question. I think that usually I usually start with a beat, or, you know, TJ, our violinist and keyboard player, will come up with a beat. And then I feel like as I'm sitting with that beat and they're putting layers on top of it, I expand on it or get more of an idea of where it should go. So we usually lay just like a foundational beat down. And then from that point, build on top of it. But the beat continues to get revised, you know, after listening to it 25 times in a row or whatnot. I'll be like, you know what, we should try this here, and, you know, move that kick there, move that snare there, kind of, you know, modify as we go. But usually there's a foundation. Yeah,
and, you know, not to talk shit, but I'll ask you this now before Branson hops on the call, actually. But before you get the music, being the drummer, you know, everybody who holds the drummers, they hold the rhythm and they hold the structure of the band together. So, like, you know, if they present the music to you before you had any contribution, how off time is it sometimes?
No, that's a funny question. No, they're actually, everybody in the band is really good with music, and they all record into Ableton to a click. So usually it's pretty good. I mean, Branson usually likes his beats a little more funky, a little more swung, which you wouldn't hear on the EP, but you will probably hear on some of the new stuff. But I usually have to take some of his bizarre timing and try and fit it into something a little bit more digestible, I'd say. But they're all in time. They're pretty good.
Okay.
Pretty good with that.
Okay, so no off-tempo issues there at all?
No, I mean, sometimes when we were playing live, or like when we recorded this live at the Toy Factory, you know, TJ and Jeremy could get a little carried away when it was just keys and acoustic guitar, and I'm like, are you guys not fucking listening to the click, or what's going on here? But yeah, they're pretty good.
Okay, so no whiplash moments, as I like to say, if you've ever seen that movie.
I have seen that movie. I love that movie. No whiplash moments. None of that.
I could just say that, you know, like when you go to a concert, you know, you always hear those last-minute drum checks or line checks or whatever. I can't tell you how many times I've been to a concert since that movie came out 6 years ago, and everybody screamed, "Not my fucking tempo," as they...
Oh, That's awesome. I haven't actually heard that or seen that live, but that's fucking awesome.
You got to come to New York.
Yeah, I do. I really do. I haven't been, but I'm looking forward to getting out there soon.
Definitely, we look forward to having you here.
I appreciate that.
Kind of going back to the many different like sounds that Not a Toy incorporates, is that maybe just representational because all the members have like different influences or different like sources of inspiration in a way?
Yeah, completely. I think we're 4 unique individuals, and then we collectively come together and put something together. So we're all bringing a little bit of a different influence to the table. So yeah, that's exactly right.
So like, somebody in the band I know is obsessed with death metal and obsessed with black metal and obsessed with the heaviest stuff, and then there's somebody who maybe like grew up with like more alternative rock and stuff. Is that a fair assumption to make?
Nobody's obsessed with black metal or death metal. I feel like I probably listen to the heaviest music at this point. Mostly, like, if I'm listening to something heavy, it's usually, like, in the metalcore genre. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like TJ listens to a lot softer of things. Branson listens to a lot of, like, R&B and hip-hop and rap. And then, you know, like I said, I feel like I listen to almost everything except for country. And then our guitarist is, like, way into trap music. Like, it's like all he fucking listens to. It's hilarious. Well,
trap metal, you know, the new genre, I just simply call that newer metal, N-U-E-R. Like, okay. Bringing back the new metal thing, but, you know, it's newer.
I actually don't know if I've ever listened to trap. I'll have to check that out.
But, so having many different influences, and you mentioned you're a metalcore fan, which is how I got into the genre as well. Any particular favorite bands in that genre?
Well, dude, I feel like it's a very tight scene, and I hopped on it more recently, like within the last 4 years, so I can't be like I'm a metalcore kid at all. But I feel like Thornhill is like definitely a band that I go to, and then Architects. I don't know if that's considered metalcore or not. Gideon, this band Avoid from Seattle. So I feel like that's probably the top ones that I listen to. I consider
Architects and Parkway Drive to actually be the current leading bands in the new front of it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so Architects is definitely a metalcore band.
Okay, cool. So I'm hitting it. I'm doing okay.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to playing live, and I like asking drummers this because whether you're practicing or you're recording or you're playing live, I feel like, you know, you kind of have the same sort of visual feel. You're kind of like behind the kit the whole time. So when it comes to playing live versus like in the studio or something like that, is there possibly a similarity that goes into the two, or is it like is it two completely separate mind frames altogether?
As far as like physical appearance and like playing and stuff, I feel like no matter what, when I'm playing drums, I just look hideous. Like my facial expressions are awful. It looks like I'm passing a child.
Try to find me one drummer who looks remotely flattering behind the kit. I'll wait.
Oh man, like Luke Holland looks good when he drums. You know, Mike Fuentes looked good when he was drumming. Like I feel like you got to take like 1,000 pictures of me while I'm drumming, because in one of them I'll look okay, and then the rest I seriously look like I'm in severe pain and agony. But I mean, I feel like mental, when you're in the studio, I feel a lot more in my head. I feel, because I'm trying to make every hit perfect, and the guy who's recording it is always like, hit it harder, and my thumbs are getting bruised. And of course, when you're playing live, it's just like you're doing it that one time, so do it as best you can and fucking rock it.
And having so many beats to memorize as well. I mean, again, you can answer this honestly. Do you remember every single beat, every single kick drum, every single, you know, crash, like you hit the cymbal at this time, do you memorize it note for note for note to play live as you do when you're on the album, or do you kind of like experiment a little bit more when you're live as well?
There's definitely more experimenting when you're live, but there are some parts that like you absolutely have to hit how they are. So I would memorize those ones, and you know, if I changed it in practice, somebody would be like, hey, you should hit this part exactly how it is because it makes the song better, and I'd be like, okay, and then I would do that part exact. But there's definitely more experimentation that happens live. Sometimes it just flows out of you. Also, Branson Hoke just joined us. So.
Oh, hell yeah. How's it going, Branson?
I'm doing great, dude. Thanks for having us on. Sorry I'm a little late.
No, it's all good. For those of you who don't know, Branson's a tattoo artist, and it's great to be able to talk to. I've actually interviewed a small handful of musicians who are also tattoo artists, and may I just say, you always give great interviews, so it's great to have you on here.
Hey, hopefully I live up to the standard. Thank you.
That's awesome. It's awesome. I already are. But we were actually just talking about like the live presence versus like the recording and stuff, and being that you're the front man, well, Benji being the drummer, you're kind of behind the kit the whole time. For you, how similar is it playing live versus when you're in the studio, or is it a completely separate mind frame altogether?
It's definitely separate. I love kind of how Benny was saying, like any chance to kind of switch things up in an exciting way. But there's definitely parts where, I got to sing it as close to the song as possible. But it's mainly like the anthemic parts, the parts where we want the crowd actually like singing it as is. So it's got to be always a happy medium. But the live show is so much fun. I'm so excited to play finally. Yeah,
I know, right? When the shows do return again, please come to New York City, because we would love to have you here.
I would absolutely love to be in New York City. What part of New York are you in?
I live in the middle of Manhattan, and I'm actually calling from Brooklyn. So.
Oh, so cool. I've only been to Brooklyn, and I spent a little time in the city, but I would absolutely love to play there. That'd be super, super cool.
Yeah, we would. It'll be great to have you here. And now Benji, we talked about like if you needed the music before, if you lay down the drum patterns. But for you, Branson, in order to come up with like the lyrics, has there ever been a time where maybe a concept or lyrics in itself could help influence the direction of the music as well?
Yeah, completely. I don't know. Honestly, I feel like lyrics are something that I'm still growing, and that I think I'm always going to be growing with them. But the goal is that the theme of the song, the lyric is so good that the whole song can build itself around that. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's my ideal goal, is that whatever the main hook is would be so good that the whole song would be influenced by it.
Have you ever had the best lyrics ever, and then they're always like one syllable over the arrangement of every song?
Yes, that's the worst. But I feel like the best songwriters are the ones who are able to kind of deal with little bumps like that creatively and come up with a better way to put it all together. So.
Yeah, and Benji, as you were saying, you got the off timing and everything, right? That the lyrics could fuck that all up as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's all got to come together.
Yeah. Now, you guys ready for the most difficult question of the whole interview?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I want you both to answer this, because I always get a different answer every time. How do you know when a song is done?
Fuck. You go first, man. I mean, the answer you're probably not wanting to hear is that it's never done.
Yeah, I'm sick of that one.
I don't know. I think wrong. I think a song is done when there's no longer any parts that make me cringe.
Okay, that's actually even better.
Like when there's nothing in it, like you've done everything as best as you possibly can, and there's nothing that bothers you. I think that's like the biggest thing, is if there's anything that bothers you, that shit's gonna haunt you and just like keep coming back every time you listen to it.
All right, next.
Yeah. I think a song is probably done once it's released.
All right.
I'm sure that's also not the answer you're looking for, but I feel like I'm one of those people, and I know our guitarist is as well. When we were putting the post-production into this EP, we continually could find new things to put into a song, and I think it's also what Branson said comes into play, where like there's nothing else in the song where you're like, this is bugging me. We've made everything into a place where we like it, so I guess that probably is still when nothing pisses you off about it and you finally just like get it out, because once it's out, then you can't fucking do anything to it.
Yeah. You guys answered it just like the news always answers the question. Shitty headline, but you explained it as you went deeper into it. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're getting into politics next. We're gonna be running for office, so we're just practicing our bullshit answers.
Oh hell yeah.
Not a toy for president.
All right. I mean, at this point, I'm willing to take anybody over. Never,
Yeah.
But like when it comes to getting that inspiration to write, like where the creative ideas come from, do you guys like to be in the company of each other? Does creativity work best when it's all four of you guys together in like one room, or do you find it a little bit easier to come up with drum patterns or lyrics or whatever when you're like a little bit more in isolation when you're alone?
there's something really special that happens when all of us are together, and I think that's the reason that we've stayed a group for so long. Like, you know, we all kind of make music on the side as well, but the group is special because when we are together, we each have the thing that the others are missing. I'd say the only one where I'm probably the one who likes to be alone the most, just because lyrically it's such a personal journey, writing a song, and a lot of times it's really hard to do that when I'm with everyone else. But when I'm working on the production, I like to do that with the guys, and like we all throw ideas at the wall, and that part's really fun to do as a group. But I'd say, yeah, lyrically, melody, I like to sit alone and just, you know, brood for a while until something good happens.
Is the music more or less like open to interpretation, you would feel, or do you try to maybe like convey a message behind Not a Toy in a way, like maybe get the listener to maybe see things from your point of view?
I love when songs are able to be, like, the meaning's able to be adapted to the individual who's listening, and they can kind of take the song for what they want it to be about. Of course, it's about something for me, but I feel like it would be less relatable if it was just my story and, you know, things that are important to me. So I wanted to make sure that the album as a whole was pretty easy to take and like change the meaning for whatever you're into. But I don't know if Not a Toy stands for anything. It's really just more the creativity side of it and the lack of rules and the artistic expression side of things. I think that's more what Not a Toy wants to convey as a message.
Yeah, what I find unique is that I feel like the music kind of envelops you in an atmosphere, and whatever that atmosphere may be, I think it's going to be a different experience. And I also think that what's great about Not a Toy's music, being that we talked about how kind of like experimental it is and all these different elements, I feel like every setting is an appropriate setting to listen to this. There's some bands that you kind of want to listen to, like, you listen to the heaviest, most angriest shit when you're, on the train on the work every morning and it's preventing you from killing somebody, at least here in New York City, that's the case. But, then there's some music that, is more like relaxed kind of listening. I feel like Not a Toy, it's like you can listen to this music green eggs and ham style everywhere,
Yeah, man, we really wanted it to be like, we kind of call it late night drive music, but just something that no matter what mood you're in, you can kind of vibe to it. I do think that's something that we kind of want to grow from as well, though. I don't think our next album's going to be the same. I definitely want to make sure we keep exploring different sounds and different energies. So I think we hit the late night drive vibe pretty well. So I think our next challenge is going to be kind of bringing our rock roots back into the music.
Yeah, it's going to be a morning drive, so it's going to be much more angry, right?
Yep, exactly. You're going to
morning drive music, exactly. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, morning drive music. I mean, Cannibal Corpse. You're going to sound like Morbid Angel on the next album. That's what I'm expecting.
That's the plan.
Talk about one extreme to the other. Yeah, stranger things have happened.
Yeah. Well, Alex, I actually got a question for you, man. If that's cool.
Sure. I've never been interviewed before. So.
I mean, you seem like a total metalhead, and I'm curious, with our music, it's we're on a hardcore label. We're not hardcore as far as, the genre of hardcore rock music. I'm curious that, like, what the fuck am I saying? You like the music, you fuck with the music, and you're a metalhead, and I find that interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of... I feel like what's great about Not a Toy is, how a lot of people say that, like, bands like Linkin Park or My Chemical Romance or Avenged Sevenfold, like, were people's gateway drugs into heavier material? Mm-hmm. I feel like with bands like you or Set It Off or Movements, first off, I think being on Fearless is like the perfect label, because I feel like many bands of your style or kind of have that, like, bridge between pop and rock. I think you're on the best label for that. Huge shout out to Fearless.
Huge shout out to Fearless.
Yep. Yeah. And I think you guys could not only be a modern day gateway drug into people discovering heavier material, but I think you could also be a gateway drug into more metalheads getting into more melodic or more, for lack of better words, lighter material. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Well, thank you for that. That's actually a good way to put it.
Yeah, you're not going to hear... The whole metal elitist thing is just something that was made up on the internet. I've played the Black Parade to hardcore Agnostic Front fans, and they'd be like, this is pretty good. So...
dude. Love it.
Yeah, and I could easily see you like doing like, you know, a festival with like a lot of metal bands, like at a Danny Wimmer festival, or if Warped Tour was still around or something like that.
Definitely. That'd be so cool to do some heavier renditions of the songs that we have out right now.
Ooh, the plot thickens.
I feel like we'd have to do that if we played a metal fest.
Yeah, or just write a death metal album. I think what bands should do is every album is a completely different style, and then this way they could get on any tour that they want.
Dude, we are the fucking band to make that shit happen. Let's go.
All right, you got the idea from me.
All right, we'll give you album credit.
Thank you so much. And the final question I wanted to ask you is, you guys all originated in Colorado, right? I know that's where the band is from, but that's where you all started, right?
I was born in Northridge, California. So I spent the first 12 years of my life in the Los Angeles area, and then my family moved to Colorado.
Okay.
2006.
So I've been saying right now that a lot of amazing bands have been coming out of Colorado. I really do consider it like to be a capital for music right now. And you're probably the first band from Colorado I've interviewed that isn't thrash metal or doom metal. But besides that, like there has to be a really good happening scene for Not a Toy to really cut their teeth in, right?
Yeah, I mean, the scene in Colorado, I think since the time we were a high school band, has been super nurturing. There were a bunch of, like, tons of battle of the bands and, like, different, there were actually a couple different companies that would kind of take bands and teach them how to do everything that, you know, labels would do or a manager would do or a booking agent. So we kind of learned how to do everything ourselves from some foundations that were, like, put in place to help small bands and like encourage new music and new a new scene. I think Denver is definitely behind as far as like, you know, the major music hubs, but I think as far as like the second tier of cities that are making their way into being a music mecca, I think Denver's on its way, but I think currently it still kind of feels like it's a second tier, like it's nowhere near LA or Nashville or Memphis or Atlanta. Like those are, you know, that's where I feel like music is just like thrives the most. But I think it's going to be really cool to see what happens over the next, I mean, even just as long as, you know, Not a Toy's making music. I'm curious to see how much the Denver scene's going to grow, and I think it'd be really cool at some point for Not a Toy to find a way to kind of re-give back to the Denver scene and kind of bring up other bands who, you know, we've been playing with for years. I feel like there's a lot of amazing musicians that the world needs to know about. Definitely. Are there any that you want to shout out? I always put artists on the spot when I ask this, but you're more than welcome to take the time to think about it. Yeah, no, there's definitely a big handful of them. I think my favorite ones have actually recently gone and done more solo projects. So there's no confirmed like band name finished projects, but we've got some friends who we've been, you know, producing music with for like, you know, 8 to 10 years now. So and I'm just really excited to see what kind of projects they come out with here soon. Awesome. So before we go, I want to thank you both so much for your time today. Really enjoyed this discussion. Is there just anything else with Not a Toy that you would like to promote or plug? On top of that, I've been trying to do this more with artists, but are there any like venues that are currently struggling right now in your scene that you want to help shout out or whatever as well?
As far as like kind of a closing point, I feel like, you know, just follow us on our social medias, which are at Not a Toy on Instagram and Twitter. We've got clothing coming out here in the next couple months that should be really comfortable and stylish as well, just some like good streetwear. And by purchasing that, not only are you going to get badass clothes, but you're also going to be supporting us while we can't tour, and kind of buying into Not a Toy and, you know, basically taking stock in our company. And then as far as venues go, I mean, I feel like you should just support local business as much as possible and as much as you can afford, you know, order from those local restaurants. And if there's something going on at a venue that you can go to that's, you know, socially distanced and allowed to happen, I mean, definitely support it. I feel like that just kind of goes across the board because there's too many people struggling, to name off a few. Yeah, as soon as shows start up again, I just hope people are able to feel confident enough in the state of the pandemic to fully start going to shows again. I hope that it's not a slow start because venues really need that help. So yeah. I'd say, yeah, biggest message is wherever the show is, just make sure you go to shows once it's possible again.
I've been saying that when all this is over, we're going to enter, I think, the best era of the arts of all time, like a new age renaissance.
Yeah, the Roaring 20s, dude.
Yeah, it's gonna be round 2 of the Roaring 20s. It's gonna be crazy.
Yep, it's going to be awesome. Like, and you know, like people, I was worried that people were going to be scared about returning to shows again, but I mean, that happens a lot. You know, look what happened after, you know, the tragedy with Dimebag Darrell, or what happened after the Paris attacks. People were scared to go to concerts again, and you know, like you couldn't even wear a hoodie inside of a venue for a period of time after that. Sure, there might be a little bit of like, you know, dipping your feet back in the water, but we'll be back full swing before you know it.
Yeah, I'm sure the virtual option will still be there for anyone who is uncomfortable with it, but I really hope that still supports the venues just as much as being there in person.
Yeah, it'll be back. It will, you know, this is music. We've gone through the test of time numerous times. We'll get through this as well.
100%.
And we'll have plenty of great new bands for people to get on board with, like Not a Toy. So we look forward to seeing you guys on the road.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate you having us, bro.
Thank you, everybody. We are here with Not a Toy. Check out their self-titled EP, and be sure to check out their merch. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.